Hello everyone. In this video, I'll be explaining how to complete the Working with Tabular Data exercise. So first we need to import our data set that we'll be using. So we need to import pandas. And we need to cd into the folder where Dr. Goldie has the data sets on them too. And we need to set our Congress or whatever you want to call your data frame equal to pd.read_csv. And then this is the name of the CSV file that contains our data set. Then we do congress.head to make sure that it's all properly formatted and it all looks good. So the first part of this exercise is to print out the first 500 words of the speech that mentions our favorite animal the highest number of times. So for this example, I'll use panda because pandas. And I'll find the speeches that use the word panda the most in the Congress data set. So I'll set panda equal to Congress of speech dot string dot count panda dot nor just 5. So what this is doing is it's grabbing the speech column from the Congress data set and doing string dot count panda to count the number of times the word panda appears in that row and in that column. And then we'll take the 5 largest, so the 5 rows that use the word panda the most. And it should look something like this, where this column here is the index, which is this column of the data set. You can also think of it as an ID number. And then this column here, which is the number of times the word panda appeared in the speech column of that row. So next, we're going to split the speech into words and take the first 500 words. So we're going to set words equal to Congress of speech to grab the speech column, and then sub panda.index sub 0, which is taking our panda variable from here, and then the index, which will grab this row, or this column, sorry, and then sub 0, which will grab the first one. So it's finding the value from the speech column in the Congress data set as the index that matches this one. Now we're going to split that and then subcolon 500, which will grab the first 500 rows or first 500 values in the list that results from splitting the text, which will grab the first 500 words. And then I'll print a space in quotes dot join in the words, which will print every word that was resulted from this line here, and then separate it with a space. And here's the result. So now for the second part of the exercise, we're going to choose one of the top 100 speakers from the data set. So to get the top 100 speakers, we'll create our top speakers and set it equal to Congress of speaker dot value counts. And then we're going to take the top 100 here. And you don't need to do like pd.series.value_counts like normal, because when you grab a row from a data frame like this, it already comes as a series. And then when you print that, it should look like this. So these are the top speakers in the data set, and then these are the number of rows where they are the speaker. So for this example, I'll be using Mr. Yates, but you should use someone else if you're choosing. So we'll create a subset of our data set where it's only speeches by our speaker, in this case, Mr. Yates. So I'll create our Yates subset is equal to Congress, so Congress of speaker is equal to Mr. Yates. So what this is doing is it's taking rows from the Congress dataset where the speaker column has the value Mr. Yates. And make sure that you use 2 equal signs here, because 1 equal sign is for assigning a value to a variable, 2 equal signs is for comparing values, which is what we're doing here, because we're checking if the value in the speaker column is equal to this. We're comparing those values. And now when you do Yates.head, and to make sure that it looks right, and here is, as we can see, the speaker is Mr. Yates in every row. Now we're going to find the longest speech by Mr. Yates. So to do that, I'll set Yates longest equal to Yates.n largest, set n equal to 5, and columns equal to word count as a string inside of a list. That's because you can use multiple columns when you're using the n largest command, but in this case, we only want to use word count as our only column. Let me print that. Here we can see that this is the row, the longest row by Mr. Yates. As we can see, it has 2,899 words. Now we're going to print out the first and the last 500 words of the speech. So to do that, we're going to, it's basically the same thing before, except I had it split into 2 rows before, where I had this part here in a separate command and set it equal to a variable. Put that variable here. You can do it either way, whichever one makes more sense to you. But basically the main difference here is we're replacing, I think it was Panda we used before, with Yates longest here, so that it's going to grab the index here. And this will go back into Congress and grab the speech with the corresponding index. Grab the first 500 words. And here, to get the last 500 words, everything is the same as the first 500 words, except this part is different. See, it's subcolon 500 here to grab the first 500, and then some negative 500 colon here to grab the last 500. Now for part 3 of the exercise, we're going to limit the data frame to 1 year of our choosing in the 1980s. So for this example, I'll use 1984. So we'll create a Yates 1984 subset, which is only speeches by Mr. Yates in the year 1984. So to do this, we'll create a subset of the Yates dataset by saying Yates sub year is equal to 1984. So we're doing this the same way we created the Yates dataset before, except we're using Yates instead of Congress, and we're using year instead of speaker, and then 1984 instead of Mr. Yates. And then as we can see, when we do Yates 1984.head, every row has Mr. Yates as the speaker and 1984 as the year. So longest speech by Mr. Yates in 1984. To find that, we'll create our Yates 1984 longest, say equal to Yates 1984.nlargest, set n equal to 5, our columns equal to word count. When we do that, here is the longest speech by Mr. Yates in 1984, and that's 1,762 words. And now we'll print the top 500 words from that speech the same way we have before. And just make sure you have Yates 1984 longest here. Now for part 4, we're going to pull up a list of our speaker's top 100 words. And we're going to choose a word that we think is meaningful and possibly distinctive to the speaker. So to do this, we're going to import stop words as we have before and create our stop words list. And here we're going to create a stop words regex, which is basically formatting the stop words in a way to efficiently search the data frame by Python. Don't necessarily need to understand what this means. Just know that this is reformatting the stop words list to more efficiently search our data set. So now we're going to find the top 100 most used words by Mr. Yates. We'll create our Yates words and set it equal to pd.series.valueScouts, and then Yates of speech. And then we're going to do .string.replace here to remove punctuation, and then .string.lower to make it all lowercase. And then .string.replace stop words rejects with an empty string. What this is doing is removing stop words and replacing them with empty text. We're going to do .string.split and then .drop NA and then colon 100 here. And this is going to give us our top 100 most used words by Mr. Yates. And we'll just pick one to use here. For this example, I'll use the word chairman, but you can pick a word that you can study it a bit more thoroughly and find a word that you think is more distinctive to the speaker of your choice. So now find a speech where a speaker mentions this word the greatest number of times. So I'll create a chairman variable and set it equal to Yates of speech, .string.lower, .string.count, chairman.nlargest 5. And here, these are the 5 speeches that use the word chairman the most. And then we'll print our top 500 words the same way we have before. And make sure you have chairman here. And then part 5, we're going to find the longest speech where a speaker mentions the word that we chose before. So and the word should be mentioned at least 3 times. So we're going to create a Yates chairman subset I'm going to say Yates of speech dot string lower dot string dot count is greater than or equal to 3. So this is basically saying to create a subset of the Yates data set where the count of the word chairman in the speech column is greater than or equal to 3. And now I'm going to find the 5 longest speeches by Mr. Yates in which he says the word chairman at least 3 times. So we're going to say Yates chairman is equal to Yates chairman dot n largest, so n equal to 5, and columns equal to word count. And then this will give us our 5 longest speeches by Mr. Yates, where he mentions the word chairman at least 3 times. So see, and this is the result that has 2,282 words. And then we'll print the top 500 words from that speech here, the same way you have before, to make sure you have Yates chairman here. And that is all for the Working with Tabular Data exercise. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to either myself or Dr. Gouldy.